Hey, greetings ESL 106. We are looking right now at skill 4. We're starting unit 2, and the first skill in unit 2 is talking to us about text organization. So I just want to do some of the practice that they give us there in skill 4, and I'm looking at the pages of signal words as well as practice, and we're going to be looking at some of that together. So hopefully you've been able to review this section of your book. Feel free to pause the video whenever you need to just work this out for yourself before I give you the answers in these skill practice exercises. So talking about skill organization, I want us just to think about how are writers connecting their supporting points. We know we have to look for their main idea, and we're doing that every time we read an article. But after that, we're looking for their support. And how do they connect up their support in each paragraph, for example? We're going to look at several different structures that writers use. And I want you to start to recognize these by looking for some of the signal words. So one really common connection would be to use chronological order, right? To put things from past to present to future and use a lot of time words. And that we would be familiar with. But we also see writers using cause and effect to show their supporting points, or comparison and then a contrast, or maybe a problem and a solution. We're going to see that a lot in this unit. Definition comes up all the time, as well as classification. So if you're in your book, you can see that on page 77, they start to give us some lists of signal words, lists of words that we can look for in an article that are pointing to causes or pointing to the effects, right? And you can see the list here. They give you verbs, nouns, they give you other phrases that point to causes, and I just wrote a nice list here, and then effects. My image here is talking about air pollution and what are the kinds of words that will be used to talk about causes, to talk about effects of this problem. In addition to that, when I turn the page, I see that there are words when I'm making a comparison or when I'm reading about a comparison. You can see the words that show similarity. You can see the words that show differences. And again, some of these are connecting words. Some of these are phrases, more than one word coming together, prepositions, lots of different signal words. Take a look at the list that shows you definitions. Lots of expressions that you find as you're getting the definition of a term. And then classification is really important. We find all the time writers want to break things down into categories or sections, different kinds or different types. And they use these words to signal to us, this is how I'm organizing this paragraph or this support. And just one more is the problem solution signal words. So you can see those are on page 78. And some words are really pointing to the problem, the barrier, the challenge, the conflict. Other words are showing the remedy, the solution, the relief that can come for these problems. So here, I just want to give you a few examples that aren't in your book. And I'm going to give you 3 paragraphs all about ice cream. But I want you to tell me, what text pattern do you see? What do you see in this first paragraph as you read about ice cream? How are they supporting their main idea about ice cream? And which is the text pattern that comes out to you? So I'm going to keep moving, but if you want to pause as I go to read more thoroughly, feel free. So if you said comparison, contrast, you're right. And you can see these words though and both, even though and while, talking about strawberry and chocolate, two of my favorite flavors of ice cream. So there's a lot of comparison going on in that paragraph. But here's another paragraph talking about ice cream, and now it's a different text pattern. See if you can find the signal words and the text pattern that this writer's using. Hopefully you can see that there is a definition at the beginning talking about what's an ice cream headache, right? That is, and then there's a good definition. But they go on to talk about the causes and effects of that ice cream headache. Where does it come from? What does it result in? That's the text pattern that this writer uses. Here, look at just one more. And again, it's about ice cream. But what do you see here? What is the text pattern? And again, you can see the definition. This time they're giving a definition for freezer burn and what that means in reference to ice cream. But after that, they talk about the problem and the solution, right? Ways to solve this issue of freezer burn that ruins so many ice cream lovers' desserts. So hopefully those are some just examples that bring to life this idea of different text patterns used by writers. And when I look in your book, I can see skill 1 gives you 10 different sentences on page 79 and 80. And you're supposed to notice what is the pattern in each sentence, what is the signal word in each sentence. Take a look at these. You might want to pause here to do these by yourself before we go through the answers. But you may notice the topic of these sentences. It will help you if you understand what these sentences are talking about. They're all looking at the idea of a hospital, of healthcare. And you're going to see the first few sentences talking about errors in diagnosis. And then the last few sentences will be talking about keeping a sterile environment in a hospital. So that might help you. But go ahead and work through those 10 sentences, and I'm going to look at the answers together with you. So the first one, as you look at that, what is the signal word that comes out to you? If you said led to something else, then you saw that this is talking about a cause and an effect, right? The misdiagnosis of their daughter led to building a new app to help doctors. That's cause and effect, right? But what about number 2? They're talking about the app, and what's the signal word that comes out to you there? So if you see several components, one section, a second section, you're seeing classification. Good work. And number 3, still talking about errors in diagnosis. What's the signal word that they use? So hopefully you can see this is really looking at the problem and the solution, right? Talking about the issue and ways to catch these errors. That's really looking at problem and solution. Starting with number 4, we're talking about sterile environments in a hospital. What signal word do you see in number 4? If you said difficulty, you're right. That really points to a problem. Number 5, what's the signal word that you see here talking about outbreaks of infection? Blamed on is what I underlined, and it's really talking about the causes. What are the causes of these outbreaks? I'm going to keep going. Number 6, what's the signal word you see there? If you underlined minimize the risk, then you can see that they're really getting to some of the solution. How can we minimize this risk? And number 7, what's the signal word? I do see the word resolved. Resolved the problem. So it's definitely bringing us to more problem and solution. Number 8's a little different. For number 8, it's looking at an obstacle. They're using lots of synonyms for the word problem. And number 9, talking about a comparison, comparing a new product which is on the market, different from, unlike its predecessor. So that's making a comparison. The last one, number 10, is really helping us look at classification. It consists of talking about the parts of something. So keep going with that, guys. I hope you'll keep doing the skill practice. In fact, here's some notes for you after you've done skill practice 2, so that you can see the kinds of organization they're using in each of these sentences, and the skill, in skill practice 2, the signal words that are jumping out, that are giving us the indication of what is the text organization for each of those sentences. Guys, as you think about text organization, I'm going to ask you to do a skill 4 assignment where you go back to a TED Talk, similar to what you did the first week of Unit 1. You're going to listen to another interesting TED Talk. This one is by Sayu Bhojwani. And she's going to talk about immigrant voices. That's her title. I want you to listen to her TED Talk. You're going to be listening for how she supports her points, listening for problems and solutions. I'll tell you that from the start. So as you're taking notes, listen to the things that she highlights, emphasizes as problems, and then the kinds of solutions that she offers. And those are the questions I'm going to ask you after you go through the vocabulary. As you listen to her speaking, you'll be going back into Blackboard and answering questions about problems and solutions in regards to her talk. So good luck with that, and hopefully you'll find this one interesting as well.